Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Massive warm welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. As regular listeners will know by now, I always offer an open invite to startups from all over the world to share their stories right here on this podcast. And the reason I do this is because I think together we have an opportunity to learn from each other and those on their own startup journeys. So in the last 5 episodes, we've been to Ireland, Madrid, Shanghai, and tonight I invited Kristel onto the show, who's the co-founder and CEO of Testlio, which is a global business that's based in Estonia. Essentially, Testlio connects enterprises with a worldwide community of expert testers that aim to provide amazing customer experiences. Now, as a man that's still got IT blood running through these veins, I know what happens when people neglect testing, or don't think testing's important, or sign things off that they've tested only to find out what happens a few weeks later. So testing is a subject very close to my heart. And also, I recommend that anyone on a startup journey should listen to this episode because Kristel has so many value bombs and a wealth of experience after coming out of the TechStars Accelerator program. And that time spent at TechStars propelled them even further in the right direction and is responsible for helping them grow significantly over the last few months. But enough from me, it's time to beam your ears all the way to Estonia so we can speak with Kristel, the co-founder and CEO of Testlio. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Kristel. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thank you for having me, Neil. So my name is Kristel and I am the founder and CEO of Testlio. And Testlio is a global community of expert software testers to help companies provide amazing customer experiences. And before I started the company 4.5 years ago, I was actually working as a software tester. And so the entire idea of Testlio was actually born out of my frustrations. And what else? I'm originally from Estonia, but I have lived in London and everywhere in the US. And I have a horse, so I love horses, and I do a lot of horseback riding, and I also play piano.
Wow, you spin a lot of plates.
I know, right? It's very important to take care of yourself because entrepreneurship is so hard and it's full of struggles. So you have to be able to switch yourself off sometimes and just take time for yourself and take care of your other passions as well besides entrepreneurship and building companies.
And also you mentioned there that, Testlio came out of one of your own frustrations. And one of the things that I've learned in particular after nearly 300 episodes now is that there's a clear pattern amongst my guests where they originally came across a problem and decided to do something about it. So when I did a bit of research around you, I discovered that just 23, I think it was, you became disillusioned with how app testers were treated and wanted to build a platform that would appreciate the work of testers. And it is unsung work, and also change the way that QA was done. And I think you shared that idea with your then boyfriend, later co-founder and now husband Marco, and the two of you entered the world's largest hackathon called Angel Hack. And together you took first place there and a $25,000 seed investment and also your first paying customer. I mean, it's an amazing story, but can you expand a little bit on that? Because I think it will inspire others to follow their heart too.
Absolutely. I'm happy to. So you got all the facts right. So I started the company with my then boyfriend, later co-founder and now husband Marco. So we got married last year. But when getting back to the story, like how I actually got into software testing, that takes me back to college. So after I graduated high school in 2008, I didn't know what I really want to do with my life. So I met with my sister's friends who were all working in tech, and they all told me that, hey, Kristel, you should be part of the tech industry. So I went to study programming in a local college here in Estonia. And during my second year in college, a lot of my classmates were telling me that, hey, Kristel, you should, if you want to build a great career in as a programmer or a developer, you can start off as a tester because it's really like an entry-level job into the tech industry. And I immediately fell in love with the idea because testing for me seemed such an easy thing to do. And after a couple of months working in a local like software boutique company that was developing like different websites, I started really being interested in the profession as a software tester. And so I moved on to a bigger company in Estonia that was like about 200 people, and I became like a software tester in their company. And then basically what happened was that I felt that I really want to build my career in testing. And then during that time, I also graduated college, and that initiated me to try something new. And I wanted to move away from Estonia. So I told my now husband, Marco, that let's move away from Estonia and then try something new outside of Estonia. So we ended up going to London, and I immediately continued my full-time career as a tester. But at that time, I really felt that I'm not improving myself fast enough as a tester in this current company because I was the only tester in my team. So I started looking for additional opportunities to just improve my skills. So I started reaching out to like thought leaders in the industry. And the second thing that I did was I really I started hearing about different crowdsourced testing companies, and I immediately like fell in love of the idea of crowdsourcing, because the idea of connecting thousands of testers around the world in one platform with companies who need testing seemed so interesting. And I immediately fell in love with the idea that I can just work with testers all over the world and just learn from them. But after a couple of months, I was just I started becoming very frustrated about the experience that I had as a tester. Like, the testers were not appreciated for the time that they spent. So they were, I think the right way to say it is, quantity was more important than quality. So testers really ended up reporting like all the low-hanging fruits in every test cycle. So we created a lot of noise to the customers. And then the second thing was that the testers were really always competing each other. But in my opinion, quality was always supposed to be everyone's responsibility. And that's where I started like sharing those ideas with Marco, and that was it.
And you mentioned there, obviously, that you're from Estonia, which a lot of people listening won't know is got a huge startup scene. When I've interviewed over 300 people on here, and I've learned over the years that Ukraine and Tel Aviv have all got fantastic startup scenes. And there's a lot of areas that we don't get to hear about, or people on the other side of the world might not be familiar with. So could you tell me a little bit about that startup scene in Estonia and just how great it is at the moment?
Oh, Estonian startup scene is crazy. So there are so many entrepreneurs out there, and in fact, Estonia has the most startups per capita. So that's an interesting fact as well. So we have a lot of entrepreneurs in Estonia, and especially in Tallinn. So some of the most famous ones to say are Skype, TransferWise, and some of the recent ones, for example, Starship Technologies, that is delivering robots. So there's a lot of action going on in Estonia, and I think it's really coming from the fact that like everyone thinks globally from day one, and that's why we become so big very quickly as well.
Now, as for Testlio, you handle QA for many successful apps, including Microsoft, Lyft, Salesforce, CBS Interactive, Flipboard, Strava, OfferUp, Voxer, and GoDaddy, just to name a few there. But I mean, for anyone that is new to what Testlio does, can you tell them how you help these companies make more and what makes you so unique?
Absolutely. So Testlio is essentially a global testing community, and we help enterprises with preventing issues happening in production. So what happens with all of these customers is usually they sign up for like a subscription, and then basically we start testing for them on a weekly or a bi-weekly basis. And all of these testers that we have in our community are verified. So every tester that joins our platform is put through like a verification process. So they have to work on a practice test cycle before they even become part of our community. And we call our community members test lions. So if you put the N in the end of our name, it's actually a test lion. And so there's a huge verification process for the testers. So we currently accept about 3 or 4% of the testers that actually sign up to our site, which makes us very different from all of the competitors. For us, quality is the thing that we're really looking for, and we're really looking for testers that have previous experience in testing. And the second thing, I think, what makes us very different from other competitors is that we pay to our testers on an hourly basis, and usually all the customers that we work with get a long-term team from the Testlio community, and that's what they really love about Testlio, because testing is really all about like learning and exploring the product and figuring out like what are the how the users think actually, and how can we prioritize the issues that are happening for them, because every company's product has like hundreds of issues in their backlog. It's all about prioritization and understanding our customers' needs and expectations.
I also love how everyone at Testlio there is thinking global. I mean, it's fantastic. And one of the things that I also read was Testlio's freelancer network is made up of 150 testers from 33 different countries who assist customers in 36 different languages. I mean, was having a diversified workforce something that was important to you right from the beginning? And what edge do you think that offers over your competitors?
So first off, I want to correct you a bit. So we have more than 200 testers now, and we are more than in 38 countries.
Wow.
But coming to the diversity question, diversity, I think, for us has been important from the beginning. And considering the fact that the founding team is like a girl and a boy, that makes us diverse like from the beginning. And for me, being a female founder, it constantly makes me push other girls and women to get excited about the industry too. And I think like I'm really working hard on making Testlio welcome for everyone. And it's proven fact that companies that have more diversity are actually more successful as well. So it's important to invest into diversity, and that's it.
There's so many great aspects to your story, and I think one of the main, I think anyone that has a successful startup needs a certain element of tenacity. So when I read that you were heavily influenced by your grandparents who lived through World War II and taught you the importance of always staying positive and never giving up, as a result of this, you often remind your team there will always be challenges and successes, and they doesn't come without pain as you lead Testlio into uncharted waters. And I think it's so important now in an age that seems to champion instant gratification and impatience. Why do so many fail to see that there is no shortcut to meaningful success and are so impatient, do you think?
To be honest, I can't really talk for everybody, but from my perspective, unless you're super lucky to win the lottery, there is no overnight success. Yeah. And I think the reason why people always see that there can be shortcuts to success, it's because of the media, right? Like, yeah, we always talk about the wins and successes of the companies, and not that much about like the challenges and the obstacles that we're facing, because everybody wants to show themselves from a very great way, right? And so there are stories like, for example, I don't know if you remember, but there was a company out of Belarus called Masquerade that Facebook acquired for $150 million. Yeah. And they were called like an overnight success, where they started off of a hackathon, and within 3 months they were able to sell themselves to Facebook. But in fact, like all the founders that were part of the team, they went to like 7 or 8 different hackathons, and they were building up their careers as designers and developers for such a long time. And I think that like telling these stories is super crucial for everybody to understand that entrepreneurship is so hard, and it really takes the gut to be an entrepreneur and have the vision and lead the change.
Now, you were also a TechStars graduate who was recognised as one of the most successful female entrepreneurs to come out of the Baltics. But what did you learn from your experience out there in the TechStars Academy?
Oh, a lot. Yeah. Like, seriously, this experience was just priceless to me. And first off, it definitely gave us a lot of connections in the US, and it helped us to create this great sales mindset. In Estonia, we actually have a funny saying that we aggressively wait for customers' calls, but over there we learned that we actually have to sell ourselves, and it's very important to be very proactive with the customers and reach out and always put yourself into an uncomfortable zone. And yeah, TechStars was very helpful. Like within the first month, we met about 90 different entrepreneurs and investors who gave us feedback about Testlio, and it was so helpful. It really taught us how to pitch Testlio to either it's a company that we want as a customer, or it's an investor that we're interested in partnering up with, for example. So TechStars, I recommend TechStars for any startup that's coming out of the Baltics or anywhere from Europe, and they want to build a business in the US, because TechStars today has I think they have 1,500 founders in their network, and their like mentors network is even bigger. So you can get connected to anyone.
Yeah, it's inspirational what they're doing over there. I had the guys from TechStars Music on and a couple of the startups that were involved over there, and it's just great work that they're doing and how they're uniting companies from all over the world. And there doesn't seem to be any competition either, because I know you've got many startups all in the same room, but there's no competition. Everyone works together and learns from each other. Is that right?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But even in TechStars, we had like little competitions where like all the companies had to put together like a financial model, and they had to put together their pitch, and so we had these little competitions internally, but it was always like super friendly, but it was a good thing. And me and Marco always won, which is interesting because Marco like doesn't want to lose. He used to be a runner before, like a professional runner out of Estonia when he was in his early 20s. Yeah. And so he always won, and he didn't like losing. So he always made sure that in TechStars we win.
I love it. But I shouldn't be too surprised on the financial stuff there, because I read a great quote from you where you said that in the early days you never realised that frugality would influence the growth of your company. And I find that incredibly refreshing to hear in an era of overvalued unicorns that don't actually make any profit, that you actually opted for sustainable growth. And that's got to be a great thing to have achieved, hasn't it?
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I must say that by default, we have always been very frugal, and we've always kept an eye on all of the expenses and making sure that like everything is going in the right direction. And for us, what really matters is like the business of Testlio is we have a long-term vision, and we have time to get there, and we want to make sure that we make the right decisions before investing into unknown areas of the business. Before investing, we want to make sure that everything works as well, so we can invest more. So we've always been very frugal, and it's just our background and experience, I guess. Growing up in the Soviet Union, and your parents always thinking about long-term vision it's something that I think has influenced us both with Marco as well.
I've got to ask, as someone that manages a global team, do you find it challenging managing travel between teams in Estonia and the US, or is that something that's just imperative to you?
So from a personal perspective, a 10-hour difference isn't a challenge for me anymore, because I guess that over the years, now it's been 4 years, my body doesn't really realize jet lag anymore. But from the team's perspective, I see that like the 10-hour difference that we have between the Tallinn and the San Francisco office is definitely a challenge, but it's also something interesting, and it provides more flexibility to our teams overseas. So like, for example, people come to work later so they can like have calls with the US team like later in the evening here in Estonian time. So it's definitely something that people are just interested in seeing how can you make this kind of thing work.
So if there's anybody listening on their own startup journey and they're suffering from low energy levels at the moment, I've got to ask, how do you keep the passion and inspiration alive in what you do? I mean, is it what you surround yourself with both in and outside of your entrepreneurial life?
So I actually am naturally super positive, and I've always been very positive about everything. I see in every challenge, I see an opportunity. And to be honest, like for me personally, I don't really need any external motivation. I don't need to watch too many Tony Robbins' videos or Gary Vaynerchuk's or whatever it is. I'm just naturally like super positive, and I always talk about, like as you said before, as well. Like I like to talk about the challenges to my team, and share like all of the stress that I'm going through as well. But at the same time, I'm always reminding them that everything is going to be fine. Like we have these challenges, but we have to see opportunities everywhere around us. And if something doesn't work out the way we expected, then you never know, maybe this thing that we lost opened up 3 other opportunities for us. So it's always a positive thing. And by now, I know that every challenge will have a solution, and it's just a matter of solving them.
Absolutely. So what's next for Testlio? I mean, how do you see the service evolving over the next 18 months?
I don't want to say too much, but I think from the service perspective, we definitely want to productize our service offering. So over the past 4.5 years now that we've been building Testlio, we've worked with so many different types of customers, from small to enterprises, and we've gathered a lot of data. And so based on that, we're now actually productizing the services, and then hopefully that's going to change the game for us a bit as well.
So for anyone listening to the show that is inspired by your story as much as I am, can you remind them where they can find out more information about Testlio and get in touch with a member of your team if they have any questions about anything that we've talked about today?
Absolutely. So definitely follow us on Facebook, Instagram, with the @Testlio handle. We are on Twitter as well, and you can always write to us hi@testlio.com. And don't hesitate to reach out to me as well. Like I'm available on LinkedIn and Twitter. And so I'm always happy to help other entrepreneurs to build their dreams as well. So.
Well, a huge thank you for coming on the show today and not only sharing your story, but also a vibrant and thriving startup scene in Estonia. I always say at the end of every show that technology works best when it brings people together. But I mean, with Testlio's freelancer network made up of 200 testers, 38 different countries, assisting customers in 36 different languages, that's just inspirational. So a huge thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me, Neil.
I love everything that Kristel and Testlio stands for there. And when she says things like never raise more money than you actually need and a frugal attitude towards startups, it's just incredibly refreshing to me. I also love how Testlio consists of a community of testers that emphasise quality above quantity in their results. So I salute all of the test lions from Testlio. I also thank Kristel. I think she's unwittingly become an inspiring role model for hundreds of women, if not thousands, who are now willing to try their hand in tech or dream of becoming entrepreneurs and leaders in tech. The most valuable thing that I find from recording this podcast is hearing about vibrant and thriving startup scenes in countries like Estonia, Tel Aviv, Shanghai, Ireland, Australia, Ukraine, as well as Chicago and New York, and not just the Bay Area of San Francisco. I think it's amazing that we've got this global, vibrant and thriving startup community. And I thank all the guests and you guys for tuning in, for making all that possible.
Neil would love to get your voice heard on the Tech Blog Writer podcast. Do you have a question that you would like Neil to read out on the show? Simply record an audio message on your phone using an app like iMessenger or WhatsApp and just send it over to techblogwriter@outlook.com.
So a big thank you to each of the guests that share their story on here, and an even bigger thank you to each and every one of you that tune in. I genuinely appreciate that seeing daily episodes drop into your podcast feed takes a certain amount of commitment, but I just wanted you to know that I appreciate your time. So remember to say hello or contact me if you need any help or advice, and contact me on the normal channels. But it's time for me to go now, so have a great day, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.